This Sunday's theme is rooted primarily in resilience and self-care on how to winter. And yet, in the wake of this past week, especially the unjustified killing of a U.S. citizen by ICE agents in Minnesota, I feel compelled to offer a few words as well in the spirit of resistance. I mean, it would have been enough, more than enough, if this past week had only been the 5th anniversary of the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. A president who incited and encouraged an attempted insurrection live on national television was not arrested, prosecuted, or disqualified from office. We are now living through the consequences of treating assaults on our democracy as merely regrettable rather than genuinely disqualifying. The very next day, on January 7th, an ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, mother of 3, and poet. She was driving home from dropping off her 6-year-old at school. Video evidence reviewed and vetted by the New York Times and by many other independent sources shows that this agent's decision to use lethal force was contrary to basic principles of protecting and preserving human life. Many elected officials and legal experts have described the killing as a wrongful use of force that warrants criminal charges. Then on January 8th, again, the very next day, a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent shot a man and woman during a targeted traffic stop in Portland. Both individuals survived the shooting and remain hospitalized. As to whether the shooting was justified, to quote the mayor of Portland, "There was a time we could take federal agents at their word. That time has long passed." Taken together, these are not isolated moments. They are part of a broader pattern of unchecked violence, impunity, and abuse by federal immigration enforcement agents, leaving many of us shaken, scared, and furious. Anybody feeling any combination of those emotions? Searching for safety, accountability, and some sense that our outrage and our grief matter. To adapt the words of my colleague, the Reverend Jason Cook, it's just all too much. It's too much for any one person to hold alone, certainly. If you are feeling overburdened today, you're not imagining it. This weight we are feeling is real. And it's too great for any of us to process or carry alone. What I can offer in this moment are a few things that I do know for sure as we face the coming days together. The first is that you are not alone. We are connected in this beloved community, and that connection matters a great deal in such a time as this. Second, no matter how depleted any one of us may feel in any given moment, together we do have enough love, courage, and resilience to keep going. Exhaustion and despair are often the goal, but do not let anyone steal our personal power and our collective power. Third, this moment is not forever. It is a pivotal time, yes, but the future is still unwritten, and we are among those who are helping write what is to come. Please keep taking care of yourselves. Keep checking in on your friends and your families and yourself. This is a hard time for our country. It's a hard time for each of us, but it's also a time of reckoning, one that may yet open the door to a deeper, more honest examination of the systems and structures that must be changed to have a more just and humane future for us all. There is always a new day ahead, never a perfect one. I'm not going to promise you that that's coming, never one free of all the worries that came before. But a future still open to change and discovery and possibility, especially. So keep loving the world even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And as I say each week, continue to look for and savor all that remains good and true and beautiful, even in this hard time. This moment also deeply resonates with our own Unitarian Universalist values. More than 7 years in 2018, our annual UU General Assembly passed a resolution calling to abolish ICE and for the creation of a more humane immigration system that understands the causes of migration, that offers non-carceral pathways for people seeking asylum, and is fundamentally committed to keeping families together. So we've been ahead of the curve on this, but it's good to see more and more of the country starting to catch up with that. In that same spirit of protest, my colleague, the Reverend Jordan Nelson Long, wrote the following poem just this past week. She wrote, "You are about to see activists given extremely specific instructions about how to move and behave and take a video lawfully of paramilitary thugs who are doing violent things unlawfully. So that when activists are murdered for peacefully assembling, protesting, documenting, videotaping, standing, parking, congregating, whistling, warning, murdered just for doing those First Amendment things, it will be clear on film that the dead person was a physical danger to no one. These instructions will be given solemnly with intention, with the cadence of religious intonation, not because the seriousness will save a life, but because telling one another how to achieve the best documentation of our own deaths is simpler, more certain than teaching ourselves what it would take to make this government, its apparatus, its allocations, its greed, and its hatred accountable for what it has done and for what it is doing. May we receive this poem not as a call to despair, but as a summons to conscience. It is asking something of us, not perfection, but honesty, courage, and commitment. May we refuse to become numb. May we refuse to accept violence as normal and accountability as optional, especially for those in the highest echelons of power. And may we remember that the work before us is not only to survive these days, but to insist together on a future where human dignity is protected, where power is restrained, and where love remains stronger than fear. Let us resolve anew to care for one another, to stay awake, and to keep choosing the hard, hopeful work of justice. As Nicole Good's widow said in a statement released after her wife's murder, "We stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles. They had guns." Renee leaves behind 3 extraordinary children. The youngest is just 6 years old and had already lost his father, a veteran. I am now left to raise our son and to continue teaching him, as Renee believed, that there are people building a better world for him. That the people who did this had fear and anger in their hearts, and that we need to show them a better way. We honor her memory by living her values, rejecting hate and choosing compassion, turning away from fear and pursuing peace, refusing division and knowing that we must come together to build a world where we all come home safe to the people we love. So how do we do that? As you've heard me say so many times, if you are feeling overwhelmed as one person, stop being one person. Join groups and communities like this one that are advocating to change the world. So raise your hand if your favorite season is winter. Anybody? See, there's a few hands. Keep your hand up just for a second, because if you're like me, we may have something to learn from our winter-loving friends. For others of us, winter is a struggle. I'll confess right up front that my favorite season is summer. Anybody with me on that? All right. I love the warmth. I love the heat. I really do. Even when it's 100 degrees outside, I'm still thinking, sure, let's go for a run. I aspire to love the winter, but I am still very much a work in progress. So I was glad to discover the book, How to Winter: Harness your mindset to thrive on cold, dark, and difficult days by Carrie Leibowitz, a health psychologist with a doctorate from Stanford. I found it accessible, well-researched, and genuinely helpful. And I want to share a few of its insights on how those of us who would really prefer it was spring, summer, or fall, how we can still live well even through cold, dark, or difficult seasons, whether externally or internally. Dr. Leibowitz grew up a little over 3 hours from here on the Jersey Shore. I look at that photo and I'm like, yeah, summer. Long runs on the beach, let's go. Oh wait, that's not the takeaway of this sermon, right? Like many of us, she didn't start out as a winter person. She admits, growing up, I hated winter. As a high school senior, I refused to drive my little brother to class. I would threaten to make him walk unless he preheated my car to a toasty warmth each morning. But then her life took a dramatic turn when she spent a year in Norway at the University of Tromsø, the northernmost university in the world. It is 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle. The Arctic Circle's here, and it's 200 miles north. That seemed like a good idea. No, thank you. So that's it. That's Tromsø up at the top of the map. There she lived through the polar night, a 2-month period from late November all the way to late January when the sun never rises at all. But rather than simply endure it, she decided to study how people in that region don't simply survive winter, but actively celebrate its possibilities. So just like you winter lovers, there are about 3 of you in here, there really are many places in the world where winter is anticipated and savored. And the people who live in those places and the cultures they have shaped have a great deal to teach us about how to cultivate a winter mindset, rather than simply bracing ourselves and trying to endure the season until it's over. At its best, winter arrives in our imagination wrapped in comfort and charm, what the Danish call hygge. Cozy snow days with a warm cup of our favorite beverage, a good book, a crackling fire, maybe a dog or cat curled up nearby. Beloved seasonal rituals, presents beneath a tree, foods fried and shared, celebrations that mark the turning of the year. In moments like these, winter can feel magical. But let's be honest, winter is also scraping ice off the windshield when you're already running late. It's bracing against sharp wind as you move between parking lots and buildings. It's leaving home in darkness and returning to darkness day after day. It is gray skies that linger, cold that seeps through your coat, snow that can quickly turn to slush and grime along the roadside. Winter can settle into our bodies, into our moods, fatigue, low energy, lingering colds, a heaviness that can be hard to shake. And it's no accident that across cultures and throughout history, winter has been archetypally associated with death. I'm really selling it right now, aren't I? The land lies dormant, growth appears to stop. Winter reminds us sometimes uncomfortably that limits, endings, and loss are all real. The challenge is real. But Dr. Leibowitz has spent more than a decade researching what genuinely helps people, what can genuinely help us to cultivate a healthier, more life-giving winter mindset. That these winter lovers, they're really not like out of their minds. There really are ways to do this. And it isn't only about the literal season on the calendar. How we meet winter turns out to be a revealing test of how we respond to any season of difficulty, especially those that we don't choose and can't control. Winter in this sense is much more than a stretch of cold weather. It's a pattern of experience. Seasons of struggle and grief and uncertainty can arrive in our lives without warning, and these same practices that we're about to talk about that help people live well through winter can also help us weather other storms, whether snowy or otherwise, external and internal. If this sermon leaves you curious to learn more, I do recommend this book, How to Winter. There's way more in it than what I'll be able to share now, but I want to share at least 8 highlights that I'm taking away from her work. Please don't hear this as a challenge to do all 8 of these right now, starting this afternoon. As always, I invite you to notice, does one or more of these particularly resonate with you in this season of your life? Please take what is useful and leave the rest. Number 1, set positive winter expectations. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy thing that goes on here. Make a list of at least 5 specific things, big or small, that you're looking forward to about winter. I'll confess I have trouble making a list of 5 things that I'm looking forward to about winter, but I think she's right. It really does help. Write 5 things, post it somewhere you'll see it regularly. Here's why this matters. Confirmation bias is such a powerful shaper of our experience. Confirmation bias is a strong drug. We are all inclined to notice and interpret the world in ways that reinforce what we're already expecting to be true. So if I go into winter bracing for misery, then every cold gust, every gray morning, every slow trudge through slushy streets, it jumps out as just proof that winter is awful. But that just deepens the very mindset that just makes the season even harder. But if we expect something different, our attention can begin to shift. The cold can become a cue to slow down and cook your favorite winter recipe, something to look forward to. A gray morning becomes the perfect backdrop for coffee and quiet. In a reinforcing feedback loop, these positive expectations, they don't just reflect our mindset, they actively shape it. Over time, these small shifts in expectations can either lock us in to a negative feedback loop that just makes winter even harder, or they can begin a gentler, more supportive one that helps us live through the season with more ease. Number 2, prepare your nest. Choose at least one concrete physical way to ready your home for winter. This could look like restocking coffee and tea and cocoa. It could look like pulling sweaters and warm socks to the front of your closet. It could look like switching to heavier bedding or adding a few small touches of light and warmth. Candles, twinkling lights, a favorite blanket within reach. The point isn't decoration for decoration's sake. This is not about tchotchkes. It's about preparation. Rather than letting winter sneak up on us, these small, intentional rituals help us align with the changing season and make comfort, connection, and warmth just easier to access, more at hand when the cold and darkness arrive. Number 3, explore slow hobbies. Choose at least one indoor, unhurried practice to lean into during those cold, long nights. This might be something you already love: baking, reading, making music, doing puzzles, or something you've been meaning to try: watercolor, sewing, bread making. Check out our knitting group, learn a fabric art. Many beloved winter pastimes share this in common. They ask for our presence rather than speed. Sitting by a fire, crafting, listening to music, cooking a pot of soup with friends, writing cards, playing games, or simply curling up under a blanket all resist the pressure to hurry. In a culture that constantly rewards urgency, these slow activities become a quiet form of resistance. They train us in patience. They help us enjoy process rather than rush the outcome, and they strengthen our capacity to savor the small comforts of life. Number 4, become a wintertime mindset ambassador. Try making winter positive small talk with one person a day, just once with one person. Just see if you can do it. Keep it specific and sincere about what you notice and love about winter. It could be the sharp crunch of ice underfoot. It could be the way, and I do love this, the way that fresh snow quiets the world. the luxurious relief of stepping into warmth. Even small shifts in language do really matter. Notice the difference between saying, "It feels so good in here." That's such a different tone than, "Ugh, it's awful out." Both are true, but what do we, choose to highlight? Our words direct attention, our own and others, and what we repeatedly name begins to feel more real. Now, this isn't about denying reality or pretending that winter has no challenges. There is still room for venting and honesty, but instead of defaulting to complaint, we can choose our language more deliberately, pairing acknowledgement with appreciation. Try responding to winter bashing with a gentle yes and. Yes, it's cold, and it's soup season, or whatever your favorite winter thing is. Experiment for a few days and notice what changes: your mood, your energy, the way people respond. You may be surprised. I've been surprised how powerfully words can shape our experience of winter. Now, at this point, if the list is starting to blur together, that's okay. You don't have to remember all 8. Just notice again, which ones is your body responding to most strongly? What does your gut tell you might be most essential for you? That's probably what you need right now. And if winter has already been heavy for you this year, emotionally, physically, spiritually, none of this is meant to be another thing that you're failing to do. It's simply a menu of ways to be a little kinder to yourself as you move through this season that is already here. Number 5, notice nature. Pay attention to the nature already present in your everyday life. So don't just go around outside looking at your phone. 1, you may slip on ice and break something. But 2, you're missing the beautiful winter nature. So this might mean noticing bare trees against a winter sky, clouds drifting past your window, or even a stubborn patch of green pushing through a crack in the sidewalk. That's something I always love to see in the winters, to begin spotting that. Research shows that these brief moments of mindfulness can increase feelings like awe and wonder and inspiration while reducing stress and anxiety. The point of this practice is its accessibility. I'm not saying that you have to go on a hike, go to a forest, or do extra things in an already busy schedule. In the words of one psychologist, the key here is quality over quantity. We're talking about moments, not even minutes. Pausing briefly to simply notice nature during winter, wherever you are, whatever you're already doing, can quietly deepen our sense of meaning and connection to this season. Number 6, big light off, winter lights on. Each evening, try declaring, "It is big light off time." Turn off those harsh overhead lights in favor of small lamps, candles, and twinkle lights. Softer lights signal to us rest and ease. Warm light with its firelight glow feels more natural to our bodies and gentler on our eyes than cool blue-toned light, helping us wind down and support rest and sleep. Big light off changes the mood of a space, inviting conversation, intimacy, and calm. I know you all know what this looks like and feels like. It turns winter evenings from something to endure to something to savor. Dr. Leibowitz confesses that I've been known to enter parties and stealthily turn off overhead lights and switch on lamps to achieve the perfect big light off vibe. And if someone tries to turn a big light back on, I will hiss at them like a raccoon caught in an alleyway. She says, if you banished all overhead lights from your home this winter and used only little lights, you will be 90% cozier, guaranteed. It's also a shame that many of us feel this pressure. My wife and I were just remarking on this last night, that like so many of the holiday lights have already disappeared outside. It's traditional to take them down before Epiphany. But why take them down in early January during the darkest part of the year? That's when we need luminosity and comfort the most. Feel free to rebrand them as winter lights and keep them shining, maybe at least in bulk in early February or maybe all the way through spring equinox at the end of March. Number 7, winter-proof yourself and then go outside. Scandinavians often say there is no such thing as truly bad weather only bad clothing. Many of us, so some of you will hear that as a cue to go shopping, right? Many of us, meanwhile, tend to overestimate how uncomfortable it will be outside in winter, and we underestimate the pleasure to be found when we venture outside. One pro tip from Dr. Leibowitz is if you bundle up thoroughly, do just a few jumping jacks before you go out the door, and when you step outside, that cold will feel like a relief, because you will be so burning up inside. Start small and concrete. Just take a short winter walk, coffee on the porch, a loop around the block while it's snowing, or even 15 extra minutes outside than you'd usually allow yourself. Try going out not only when the conditions are ideal, but when winter is actively wintering. You might even reclaim a favorite summer activity. Think about what you really like to do in the summer. I'll give you a few activities of how you can reimagine it for winter. Beachcombing, a favorite hike, even having a picnic are possible with the right clothing and a thermos of coffee. Notice the gap between what you expect winter to feel like and what you actually experience if you try these things. That gap is often where delight lives. Number 8, this is the one I'm fully willing to commit to. Find a sauna or take a hot bath. Across cultures, winter has long been paired with deliberate heat. Saunas, hot baths, hot springs, baths taken slowly and with care. So if you have access to a sauna or a steam room through a gym or a friend, consider trying it. Or if not, a hot bath or a shower, I hope all of you have access to that, can offer many of the same benefits. Try bathing 1 or 2 hours before bed, perhaps by candlelight, and notice what happens. Research confirms what tradition has long known. Warming the body in the evening helps settle the nervous system, supports cardiovascular health, and improves sleep. Especially in winter, these practices are not indulgences. They are ways of helping your body let go, rest deeply, and restore itself. The Japanese say, "You are not done with a hot bath until you feel like a boiled octopus," which they understand to be the blissful, mind-clearing state of being fully cooked by the water. So here's the invitation I want to leave you with. You don't need to love winter. If you do, great. I celebrate that for you. You don't need to love winter. You don't need to pretend it isn't hard. You don't need to adopt all of these practices or do any of them perfectly. But you can choose how you meet this season. You can cultivate small pockets of warmth, light, slowness, and kindness. And you can trust that even when the winter feels endless, the wheel of the year is already turning. Light is already returning. So may this winter not be something you simply get through, but something you learn how to embrace, even imperfectly. Even in part. Not with forced cheerfulness, but with compassion and gentleness for yourself, for those around you, and for this beautiful and fragile world. Winter will ask different things of each of us. What matters is that we meet it with care. This winter, may you tend the warmth that sustains you, savor what still delights you, and allow yourself to be carried by the deeper rhythms that hold us, even in the dark. And so as we prepare to go into the rest of this day and the week to come, may you continue your journey with love at the center. Care for one another, care for this one earth, do justice and make peace. And as you go, whatever taste or touch or glimpse you may have had in this time and place of even just a little more hope or love or peace or joy, that goes with you out into the world. We are different for having spent this time together. May you live boldly, and even in this hard time, remember to savor all that is good and true and beautiful. May you live boldly and with thanksgiving.